Hey everybody, welcome to live streaming with Jesse, and today is going to be probably one of the shortest streams that I've done since I first started. So I had something that was supposed to happen at 5 and now it got bumped way up to 3:30, and it'll take me a little while to drive there, so that means we got to be done pretty quickly. So if you've watched before, you know usually the streams go like at least an hour and a half. So it's going to be a little different than normal for today's stream. So I wanted to implement some material design tabs, and like this. I thought it was going to take me a lot longer than it really did. So since I knew it had to be a short stream, I started working on it before the stream and thinking that I could get some of it out of the way and then just finish it up. And I ended up getting it finished. So what I figure we'll do for the stream is first part of the stream, I'll just go through how I implemented it. And it was so easy. I don't know why I thought it was going to be more difficult than this. But I'll run through how I implemented it, and of course I'll answer any questions about it. Then I want to demo another React project that I'm almost finished with. So I just have like one or two like tiny bugs that I need to fix, but basically it's completely functional. So I want to demo that for you. That's the React project I was working on for that Udacity Nano degree. And then after that, we'll do our normal question and answer session, and then we'll finish up. So I wish I had already scheduled the stream before I knew that I would have to be out of here around 3. So otherwise, I would have scheduled the stream earlier. But I think it worked out. So let's get to it. Let me show you. First of all, I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see, you know, we have tabs now. So just to give you an idea of what it did look like, if you don't remember, let me pull it over from the other screen. So this is what we had. So we didn't, it wasn't really tabs. It was just kind of like a menu. There was nothing to indicate what tab you were actually on. So I think we had talked about changing these at some point, but I never got around to it. So now, not only does it look more like material design should look. I mean, normally you wouldn't have this many tabs, but you know, we're kind of stuck with this many categories right now. I was able to remove one category, but now there's actually an indication of what tab you're on. So you have this little underline. So I think that's nice. And also by default, it defaults to the Franciscan. Before we had the default to all. But I talked to one of the designers, so the graphic designers, and he thought it was a little bit confusing to have all of the logos right there, and they were kind of intermixed. So he thought this might be a better way to start out. And now that we have an indicator, it makes more sense. So users can still get all of them, you know, at once. But now it's just not quite as many, you know, right away. So that's what that's what I've done today, among other things. And this is actually, you can see I'm on the live version of this site. So if you want to check it out, it's rc.franciscan.university/logos. So you can check that out. I think this is going to go live. You know, obviously it's already live in the sense that it's available online, but I'm actually going to link to it for university employees on Monday. So I think I've got, all the major things completed. I just tested out both the forms on the live version. They were going where they were supposed to go, all the data. I think the only thing I want to do is set up some sort of backup for the data. So it may end up just being a Google Sheet that gets populated, but I'm open to other ideas. So if anybody has an idea for a way for there to be a backup of all the form data that gets sent, so I just need the info from the fields somewhere in some other place other than just being sent by email and being sent to the project management system. So if you all have any ideas of something that's really kind of lightweight, easy to implement, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to send it to a Google Sheet, and that'll help our project manager out a lot, just to be able to double check, have a backup to tell if maybe something slipped through the cracks, or just to get some data. It's a lot easier to look at a Google Sheet and see how many people requested what services than to try to go through our project management system. So, all right, so let me check the live chat just quickly. There's some of you saying hi. Hey, everyone. Santosh says, I love the material design. Good, I'm glad you like it. GCPR says the logo designs look great. Awesome, I'm glad you like them. I can't take credit for them. Our graphic designers did them. Skillful Mess says, congrats on 100K and 200K. Thank you. Yeah, we got, if you haven't seen the video already, check out the video Quincy put out earlier in the week. And it's we got a silver play button from Google. So really cool. You get that when you pass up 100,000 subscribers. Rohan says you could add it to SQLite database. Harshit says Firebase for backup. Okay, cool. I'll look into those. I'd like to get it implemented as soon as I can, but actually I'm interested in Firebase. I've had a few people recommend it to me, so I'll check those out. All right, well let me get to the code now. So I think the easiest way to do this is just going to be to bring up GitHub just to see the difference. So obviously, right, I added to our package JSON because we get, if you've tried to download this project, we get like warnings and stuff. Our linter won't work if we have things, basically functions that we're using that we haven't declared. So anyway, that's all this is. I just added it to the package JSON. It's just yet another thing to ignore. And so I've added a handle tab change, which it just simply changes the state. So not really a big deal. Before I was changing the state like right inside the render, but I vaguely remember someone saying at some point that you shouldn't do it like that, so I pulled it out into this handle tab change function. Alright, so that's just basic stuff. This is where the change actually happened. So let me show you, here's what we had before. So we had a UL with LI. So each menu item was an LI. So basically we just had a click handler that when you clicked on it, it was setting the active tab based on whatever that value was, the tab key. And then that would change what you saw in terms of logos. Now the problem when I initially looked at the tabs for MaterialUI and why I thought it would take a long time is, so check this out. So the way these tabs work are you have your tab, but then within the tab you have markup, and this is what gets displayed when you change tabs. So I thought that's not going to work with what we're doing, right? Because we were using a masonry component and filtering things, right? So I thought that it's just going to be way too much work to redo everything like this. But when I started to get into it earlier today, I thought maybe it's worth a shot to just leave this out and see if we can put the click, the click handler here where we have this on change, and see what would happen, see if that would work. And it actually did work, and that's why I was able to get it done, so quickly. I think it was like less than 20 minutes. Now where'd my code go? Here we go. So here's what I ended up doing, and it actually is, even, more concise. So that UL now becomes the tabs component. What used to be our click handler now becomes the on change, and then instead of changing the state here, we just call this handle tab change, and we change the state up there. Okay, so we're passing it, right, the value from tabs, and then we're setting the state of active tab to that value. And then here we're adding, instead of it LIs, we're adding tabs. And then we simply took the same thing that we had, we had on tabs, right? We were inserting into this A tag tabs key, and that was giving us the actual display of what users were seeing in terms of menu items. And now we've put that same thing in as the label. All right, we have the same value. Our value is the tab key. And then we've just added the key, right? Because anytime you iterate over something in React and have multiple elements here, you need to have a key, right? So that's basically it, and it worked. So that's all we had to do. And because we already had it all set up so that the logos show up based on the value of the active tab in state, all we had to do was make sure that when we click a tab, we change that value. So we change the state. And that was it. It worked. So this is actually how it came up, pretty much by default. The only other thing I had to change, so we had a little bit of space on each side, and that was because originally we had all of this inside a column and a row, and that put our padding on the sides there. So I just removed this from being inside a column and a row, and I moved this name, hide on medium and down, this class, I moved that directly onto the tab. So it's hide on medium and down, and that gives us a drop down. So when it gets too small, you see it starts to get really crowded here, and then it drops down. Then we get our drop down, which still works, and it just changes state. So that was it. It was so simple. So sorry that normally I do code live. Obviously, that's the whole point of the show. But I just, like I said, this ended up being way easier than I thought, and I finished it before the stream started. So if anyone has any questions about how that worked or what I did, I'll take them right now, and then I'll do the demo for my other project. So let me just scan through the live chat quickly. Zubair says, suggestions, continue this project further with React Native. That would be cool. Actually, I really like that idea. I'm working on a React Native project right now. So after I finish that, maybe I'll give it a shot at doing this in React Native. That would be really cool to be able to tell users that if they wanted to, they could have this as an app as well. So maybe I'll give that a shot. Let's see. John Hansen said, and React is supposed to be difficult for the easy stuff. Yeah, I've heard that before. When people, React makes hard stuff easy and easy stuff hard. T. John says, nice, tab is a controlled component and you're lifting state up. Yeah, so if you check out even in Material UI, so I went with the controlled example of the tabs. So there are different ways you can do it, but this one fit, I think, the best for what I needed it for. So yeah, basically the tab is a controlled component, and by that, and correct me if I'm explaining this wrong, but normally you have inputs as controlled components in React. Very rarely would you not want to have an input as controlled component, but in this case we have this tab, which is not exactly an input, but it functions in the same way in this case. So the value of the tab is based on the state value, and then when you click a tab, it changes state value, right? And then it re-renders, and the tab value gets updated, right? So you're not directly changing the value of tab with the click. The click changes state, and then the change in state triggers a change in the value here. So that's basically what a controlled component is. And that's normally how you would do forms. So if you notice all the forms that we've done, they work like that. It's also kind of cool, like when you need to work with that form data, you already have it there in state, right? As you know, it's already there as an object. So I think it makes working with forms a little bit easier than normal. But anyway, that's controlled component. All right, so let me show you, and I'll get ready for this. So brace yourselves, and let's take a trip back in time and imagine what it would be like if we had React back in, let's just say, the 90s, and we wanted to make a blog with comments and voting, right? So here's what it would be like in my mind. So here is my latest React project, and I used Redux for this. So with Redux we have a store, and that's the source of truth for the state throughout the application. So I did use some local state for this, mainly for the inputs so that they were controlled, right? And I may have a UI element somewhere in here that uses, yeah, actually I do. So I have some things that appear or disappear based on the state, and that's best handled with local state. So anyway, it's really basic. Whoops, I don't even know what I clicked on. Let me go back. So here you have post, right? Here's our post title. It tells you the author. You can vote on it. So I can vote to increase the score or decrease the score. It tells me how many comments there are. I can delete the post if I want. I can add new posts. So we can, oops. New post. Actually, I just saw something weird. It's using a different font here. I didn't know that. I'll have to change it. And now we have our new post. And I can vote it up. And you can see as I vote it up, it's changed the order, because by default it puts the posts that have the highest score here, but we can change that and go lowest score first, or we can go date first, so the newest first or the oldest. We can check out more about this post, so let's go to this one since it has comments. So here we have the post. Here's the content, the body of the post. I could edit it if I wanted to, and if I edited it, oops, is it broken? Did I break my submit? I did make some changes yesterday and then committed them without testing, so it's possible that I broke it. And I think I did, in fact. Whoa, fails. Just want to set for fine. Oh, okay. Actually, I did know about that. I just didn't get a chance to fix it yet. So anyway, normally you'd click submit and then immediately you'd see the change. Let's see. We have our comments. We can actually sort our comments the same way. So we can sort by votes or by date. And then you can edit a comment in line like this. The comment should work. So let's add something, submit. There we go. So we added it, added the comment there. We could add some votes. And we could delete comments if we want. And then at the bottom we could add a new comment. So just add. So now we have a new comment. Let me think. The only other thing we could sort, we have categories, so we sort by categories. So that's it. That's my project. And if you want to check out what's going on behind the scenes, there's a Redux. I don't know, plugin or something for Chrome. What do they call them for Chrome? Extension, a Redux extension. So we can see what's going on with the state. So here's how I have my state organized. Right, we have our posts. Each post has a unique ID, and comments also have unique IDs. We're also grabbing the categories. Now I have the comments here as well because initially I did not put the comments with the posts, as it's two different API calls to get them. So I may end up changing this so that it's not redundant in that we have the same comment data repeated there. So once I figure out a way to make everything work with that, maybe I'll do it. We'll see if I have time. But right now it works as is. Our sorting also is in the store. So how we want to sort both the posts and the comments is kept in the store. So this is kind of a cool way to see what's going on. So we can see. Let's make some changes, and then it'll show you what changed. So right now the only thing that changed is that we updated from 7 to 8 in our vote score for that particular post. So really cool. It shows you what action was set off. Anyway, so this is my kind of fun project. It was interesting. First thing I've ever done with Redux. So I've learned a lot about Redux. And that's kind of why I went with this minimal UI. I've been wanting to do something like this with a really kind of old school looking UI. And I thought this project would be great because I had so much to learn with using Redux for the first time. I didn't want to get caught up in the UI so much. So this is very simple. Not that I didn't put any thought into the UI. It did undergo some revisions, but because it's mainly text-based, there's a lot of things I don't worry about, like borders, for like cards and what I'd normally do, or worrying about colors. Right, there's all just one color. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you all. If you want to see the code for this, it's on my GitHub profile. So if you check it out, the GitHub, it's Jesse R. Weigel. It's my GitHub profile, and then it's Udacity React ND Readable. So I will be working on this, so that it'll be updated. But for now, it's almost complete. and you can check out everything I'm doing. There's instructions for how to get the server up and running so that you can use it if you wanted to. You could create posts and have it all work just like it's working here. So you'll need to get the server as a separate repository. At some point I may end up integrating the server into the project so you don't have to download two things, but for now it's like this. I think that's it. So anybody have any questions about that, I'll answer that. Otherwise, I'm going to take questions right now. We'll do our question and answer session, and I'd like to definitely need to be finished with the stream before 3. It would give me a little extra time if we finish before 3, which would be cool, but I'll certainly take questions up until, I don't know, let's say well actually it's a different time zone for you all, so I'm not going to say 3. Let's say probably for another 20 minutes I'm good to take questions. So I don't know if it'll take that long, but so about 20 minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat now, and I'll get to them. And if you don't have questions but you can stick around, that would be awesome too. And then I'd love for you all to help me answer the questions. And if you can't stick around for the question and answer, thank you for watching. This was kind of odd that it was such a short stream today. If this is your first time watching, it doesn't normally work like this. Usually we get at least an hour of real live coding in before we get to the question and answer. So if you can join us for another stream later on, you'll get kind of the real deal. All right, let me go through the questions now, if there are any. Okay, Harshit did mention that React 16 is out. All right, and it has React Fiber. It's also the one that has the new license. I think React's under MIT license now. So, and there's other cool stuff. I haven't gone through all the changes in the new version of React, but one that I heard that I thought would have saved me some time in earlier projects was that you don't need to have everything wrapped in a div. So before, I don't know if I have an example of this so that I could quickly show, but before you would need, all right, we can show it on here. So like in this return, everything's wrapped in this one tabs, right? But what if we didn't want to wrap it? What if we left off the tabs and we just had these two sibling components with no parent? We would get an error before. But I guess from what I've seen, basically just from what I've seen people saying in Twitter, you can now do that where you could have two sibling components with no parent and it'll work and you won't get an error. So I think that's really cool. I know especially when I'm trying to convert something that's not React and then make a React version of it, you copy and paste a lot of code and you end up adding a lot of extra divs in there that you didn't have originally because you're trying to break everything out into components, and when you do that you need to wrap everything in divs. So this I think will save time and be useful. I don't know about the other changes. I've heard there's some differences in the way you do server-side rendering, and it's faster. It's supposed to be faster than before. So anyway, so it seems cool. I'll have to maybe read up more on React 16. So the next React project that we do will most likely use React 16. And then we can get into some more of the changes. But I probably won't get into a new React project for a little while. So next week when I come back, we'll probably be working on Project 1 again. And that was that Catechetical Institute site. So we're going to be doing some updates for that. Now that is React, but it's we're doing some weird stuff because that uses some React and it uses some jQuery. So I'm interested to revisit that and try to remember like what I was thinking when I did that. But hopefully we can improve upon what we had before and get some things done that we just ran out of time and couldn't get done. Okay, back to the live chat. John Hansen says, that looks more like the 80s. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, in the 90s, like, we actually had, I mean, Windows was already out in the 90s, so you wouldn't really see this. My original inspiration for this was The Matrix, you know, where you had the screen with all the green letters and everything. So that's where I got my idea for the green, at least. And then I just looked on Google Fonts for the most old school looking font I could find. It looks kind of like pixelated, you know? Anyway. Okay, Santosh asks, hey, will it re-render the tabs also on tab change? Let me see. Let's go back. It will need to render in the sense, let's see where we're at. So it will need to change, right, this underline. So I'm assuming, I didn't look behind the scenes to see what all is going on with this underline and the effect here. So to really know, I'd have to look into what's MaterialUI is doing in that tab component. I don't know, but I assume there's re-rendering going on. Probably doesn't have to re-render all the tabs each time, but I would guess at least the previous, like the current tab, and then the new tab that you're switching to. I don't know. That's like kind of a little bit more technical than I usually get with MaterialUI. I don't often look into how the components are made unless I have to. T-John says, awesome, man, I love the terminal look. Thank you. Actually, my reviewers, so I mentioned I'm doing this for a React Nano, or a Udacity Nano degree, and so you have to have your project reviewed until you meet all the requirements. And my first reviewer really loved the retro kind of UI look, so that was cool. I was worried. I had sent a message when I sent it in to review, and I'm like, listen, the UI is like, it's a joke. It's just for fun. So if it's an issue, let me know. I can change it. But they were totally cool with it. Let's see. Abu now says, okay, I just found where I belong. So I'm assuming you're saying you belong here? If that's the case, that's awesome. Welcome. All right, cool. So thank you. A few more people are saying that they like the app, this one, how it looks. So cool. I'm glad you like it. Like I said, would probably never make anything for real like this. It's just for fun. But yeah, I don't know. It is cool. It's like, it's nostalgic, you know? Let's see. Okay, Abinal says, please, what can you tell a beginner like me? What preliminaries do I need in order to catch up? I know just HTML and CSS, and I'm self-taught. Okay, well, I think the next step for you would be JavaScript. So that'll allow you to do a lot more, like if you wanted to move on to React, probably should learn at least some basics of JavaScript first, if not more. But pretty much anything more advanced in terms of front-end development, anything more advanced than HTML and CSS, you get into JavaScript land. So you could check out, freeCodeCamp's lessons if you wanted to, or if there's a lot of places that have free materials to learn JavaScript. So depending on how you like to learn, there's something out there for you. There's a great book called You Don't Know JS, and it's available for free on GitHub. I don't really have the link right now, but if you search for the title of that book, the whole thing's available on GitHub for free. So if you like reading, that's it. If you like in-browser exercises, go with freeCodeCamp or Code Academy. If you like YouTube videos, there's a ton of great JavaScript YouTube videos on our channel. So Bo Carnes does a lot of JavaScript tutorial videos, all the way from the basics to more advanced stuff. And then there's a lot of other YouTube channels that have tutorials as well. So So check that out, and then you can always, come in the live chat when I'm streaming and ask any questions that you want, or you can, send me a message on Twitter or something. I'd be happy to help you out as much as I can. All right, Alexander says, just to send love, and I'm on my way to work. Well, awesome. Have a great day at work. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see. John B says, I can't share the link, but search in Google GitHub free programming books, and the first link or second link has all sorts of free books, including You Don't Know JS. All right, cool. Thank you for that, John B. All right. So yeah, I'm really glad that we could help. Let's see. Oh, one more thing I want to say before I wrap things up, and if someone puts in another question, I'll answer that as well. But this is totally not programming related, but it may help you with your programming. So if you like to listen to music while you code, I just found out, got an email from Spotify about a new playlist that they have, and it's called Your Time Capsule. And so I don't know how they've figured out, I mean, maybe they have my age, but somehow they figured out like what time period would be nostalgic for me. So they've suggested all these 90s songs for me. And so far the playlist is pretty spot on in terms of songs that I did listen to back in the day, and that I still like. So so I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for new music. Sometimes it's a struggle to find new things. Songs get old after a while. So anyway, check that out, the Your Time Capsule playlist. I don't know. I think the right music can really help you be productive when you're coding. So you can check that out. Okay, T. John says, what was the biggest challenge with learning Redux? Probably I don't know, like figuring out how to organize the state, like so the store. So in the class I was taking, it said like you should figure out how you want to structure your store first. And I didn't really know enough that I felt comfortable doing that. So I started doing the project, and then I had to restructure the store, like several times before I got it to the point, where it's like this. So that was frustrating for me, that I had to constantly keep changing my reducers, and then my actions accordingly to restructure the store until I got it to this point where a lot of all my post stuff is here, and then each view is pulling from here, and then when something updates, it updates automatically in every view, which is the whole point of Redux. But coming from a place where like each component has their own state, and you might have a parent component so you could share state, it was weird. It was definitely different. So it took me a while to get used to that idea of like you're not directly changing things. Like within a component, it's very simple to say, okay, I'm going to change state. It's just right there, you change it. But now it's like a roundabout way of like, I'm going to fire off an action, and there'll be a reducer, and then the state will change, and then the store will change, and then that'll get passed down, and then it'll get put into props for each component. And so there's like this whole flow that happens that it just took a while for me to get my head around that. So I mean, I know that's not really a specific answer, but Redux is like, it only works if all the parts are in place. It's really hard to just take a chunk of Redux and try to learn it. You have to learn the whole thing at once, because you can't just say like, all right, I'm going to learn actions. Well, actions by themselves will not do anything. You can't just learn reducers, right? You have to learn it all. So it was tough to just get my mind around the entire thing. So there was a ton of refactoring that went into it, and rethinking everything. But eventually I just found myself like being able to delete huge portions of things to say, like, all right, I was doing it like this, but I don't need all this stuff. So it just took a while to get down to that. It took me more time than I thought it would. But now I think I'm finally getting it. I'm like by no means an expert, right? This is my first crack at it, so I'm sure there's a lot of things I could be doing better. But so far the reviewers have said that I've structured my reducers well, and my store is structured well, with the exception of the redundancy with the comments. So I'm happy about that. Let's see. I got some new questions in here. Swale says, cool app, and I don't know if it is just me, but I like the theme more than others you used for the editor, at least for a presentation like this. What IDE is it? Do you mean this this theme? I mean, this is the this is DevTools, Chrome DevTools, and with the Redux extension. And it's just kind of like a middleware, so you have to tie this in when you first initialize your store. Darsh says, what IDE would you suggest? I don't really use an IDE per se, but my code editor is Atom. I also use Visual Studio Code. I like them both. Santosh asks, does it help in terms of performance, Redux versus plain React? I don't know. I haven't tested it out myself, and I haven't really read anything about it, whether or not Redux is more performant than just handling state, within components. Depending on the size and complexity of your application, it can help keep everything straight, reduce bugs, because you don't have, like, you're not trying to pass down state through a ton of child components. And you never like mutate the store directly. So it's almost like there are these safeguards in place so that things are consistent in terms of the state, throughout. So I don't know if that translates to any performance increase, but it simplifies development. I would think for a small application, it definitely makes things more complicated than it needs to be, but for something larger and complex, it can just simplify the way you reason about it. T. John says, awesome job, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, John B says, asks if I know UML diagrams might help in future for helping map out how the store should be structured. Actually, no, I've never heard of UML diagrams, so I'll have to check those out. Let me, UML. Alright, so I just did a Google search for that, and I'm going to leave that up on my screen, so when I come back on Monday, it'll be right there. And I can check that out. So anyway, it's just about the 20 minutes that I said I would do for questions. So I'm going to wrap things up now. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry that it was not a normal stream and shorter than usual, but still got some questions answered, and hopefully some of you got some help and a little intro to Redux maybe. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. I should be back on Monday. Monday afternoon at some point, or at least afternoon in Eastern time. But have a great weekend, everyone, and I'll see you all on Monday.